So this location is an interesting example of how humans interact with bones. There are still a lot of unanswered questions. Did all those individuals die there, or were they taken there from somewhere else?
Some of Earth's strange findings are scattered and located in the Earth's coldest zones. Talking about proof of previous life and intriguing treasures from long ago, they are all located beneath the ice sea crust. Scientists and explorers simply cannot foretell what they will uncover. However, extremely rare relics that alter our understanding of history and rewrite our timeline, as well as terrible viruses that threaten all life on Earth, have been discovered. What hidden message do they hold? What effect do they have on our world? Join us as we examine shocking facts that were discovered frozen in the land of ice. The mysterious Lake of Skeletons. Rupkund Lake, commonly known as Skeleton Lake, is located high in the Himalayas at an amazing altitude of roughly 5,029 meters. It concealed a spine-chilling secret beneath its clear waters: the ancient remains of hundreds of people. Skeleton Lake sparked global interest in 1942 after a forest ranger made a grisly discovery. While examining the region, he came across the skeleton remains of several human beings scattered in and around the lake. Initially considered to be a recent tragedy, additional investigation revealed the ancient origins of these bones, which have captivated researchers, historians, and adventurers for decades. Some skeletons have evidence of blunt force trauma, probably from hailstones, while others have been impacted by sharp-edged objects. The numerous physical qualities and artifacts discovered alongside the remains point to a gathering of individuals from several locations, adding another layer to the riddle of what drove them to this distant and awe-inspiring location. From weird skeletons to a woolly mammoth, lots of strange things have been discovered deep inside the ice, like a 40,000-year-old woolly mammoth. But how could a mammoth stay frozen for so long? A 40,000-year-old woolly mammoth. Woolly mammoths were around the same size as African elephants, standing roughly 13 feet tall. However, they had significantly smaller ears, which prevented them from losing body heat. They were also coated in 2 coats of fur. The shaggy outer layer might be 20 inches long and kept them warm in temperatures as low as 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Woolly mammoths also had a bump on their back, which scientists believe was fat storage that provided energy when food was sparse, similar to a camel's hump. In May 2007, Yuri Kuti, a nomadic reindeer herder, discovered a 40,000-year-old newborn woolly mammoth named Luba on the Uribe River on Russia's Yamal Peninsula. This extraordinary discovery was one of 5 newborn mammoths discovered over 3 decades. Luba, which means love in Russian, was a nearly flawlessly preserved healthy female, aged 1 to 2 months. According to research, Luba was not originally buried where it was found, but rather transported by river after eroding from icy upstream. The location of Luba's 40,000-year burial in an ice sheet has yet to be located and may remain unknown. The body was later transported to Salikard, Russia. She is housed at the Salikard Museum of Natural History and Ethnology. A temporary transfer to Japan permitted Dr. Naomi Suzuki of the University School of Medicine in Tokyo to perform a computed tomography scan. The CT scan taken before other examinations was intended to be used for a partial autopsy with minimal disruption to Luba's body. The scan result shows she was in good health at the time of her death, but there was a large amount of mud in the trunk, mouth, and trachea, which shows she passed on right on the soft mud. Something even stranger than a mammoth was uncovered from the ice. It is a couple of 100-year-old huts and a fruitcake. Whether it has been there for centuries or just a few years, we're going to find out. 100-year-old huts and the fruitcake. Huts in the form of tents were used by adventurers on their voyages. It's usually built with insulators like seaweed seen into quilts and placed between double-planked inner and outer walls. It's usually divided into a house compartment for their use. Feeding is also a crucial aspect of any expedition due to the huge loss of calories during the day. They usually carry pre-cooked or processed food to aid the feeding and cooking process. Ernest Shackleton, a daring British explorer, is well known for his incredible journey to Antarctica in the early 19th century. During his cold Nimrod voyage from 1907 to 1919 and the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition from 1914 to 1917, Shackleton and his team built 2 huts on the continent, one at Cape Royds and the other at Cape Evans. These huts have stood the test of time for almost a century. These gave a good representation of individuals who refused to give up in the most difficult situations. They were like snug homes for them, thereby helping them survive the extreme cold, loneliness, and storms while doing scientific research and embarking on exciting adventures across the snowy land space. In 2017, the Antarctic Heritage Trust discovered something extraordinary in one of these huts, a 100-year-old fruitcake wrapped in paper and stored in a tin. Despite its age, the fruitcake still felt and tasted as it did back then. It is seen as a link to the past. Could you believe that an entire rainforest that has been long forgotten was discovered frozen in ice? And what's more shocking is that the rainforest was found in Antarctica. This could give us a sneak peek into how Antarctica was millions of years ago. Antarctica's ancient rainforest. You can identify rainforests with a dense and continuous tree canopy, high humidity, moisture-dependent vegetation, a moist layer of leaf litter, air plants and vines, and the lack of wildfire. The most extensive rainforests are tropical but other vegetation associations, such as subtropical rainforest, littoral rainforest, cloud forest, vine thicket, and even dry rainforest have been documented. However, rainforest captures attention quickly due to its natural structure. In 2017, scientists discovered something very extraordinary in the Trans-Antarctic Mountains, an incredibly old rainforest from almost 90 million years ago during the Cretaceous period. They discovered it by examining fossilized remains of ancient plants such as ferns, conifers, and flowers. Surprisingly, Antarctica, which is currently extremely cold and icy, used to have a rainforest. It's like discovering a time travel link. Antarctica was closer to the South Pole during the Cretaceous period, yet it was less cold than it is today. The remainder thrived when the continent was not covered in ice and the temperature was much higher. Following an internal scan, researchers reported that the soil was so well preserved that it still contained pollen, spores, and flowering plant remnants. Individual cell structures that were intact could be seen. According to Professor Ulrich Salzmann, a paleontologist at Northumbria University, the plant remains show that the West Antarctica coast was formerly covered in a lush, swampy rainforest with many conifers and tree ferns. He contrasted the ancient forest, which occurred during the warmest time in the last 140 million years, to those seen in New Zealand today. Lots of things have been discovered to be frozen in ice, but no one actually expected a full-blooded human to be one of them. The interesting part is that it has been there for thousands of years, but just how many years? Ötzi, the oldest frozen human remains. When next you visit a museum, you might want to check out the anatomy of the human body, either frozen or mummified. Ötzi is the oldest guy ever discovered intact. Though some Egyptian mummies are older, the brains and internal organs were removed during the mummification process. Ötzi's preservation in glacial ice makes him the best specimen of a man over 5,000 years old yet discovered. Join us as we delve into this riddle. Ötzi the Iceman is popularly known as the Similon Man. This is one of the most astounding discoveries of the 20th century. In 191, hikers discovered a mummy sticking out of the ice in the Ötztal Alps on the Austria-Italian border. He's one of the oldest human remains ever discovered. His body is naturally preserved and tells us about life in Europe at the time. It's incredible how Ötzi has remained so nicely kept. After he died, snow and ice buried him, keeping scavengers away and preventing him from rotting. The extremely freezing temperatures dried out his body, transforming him into a natural mummy. The glacier, which lives slowly, aids him in staying in shape. For thousands of years, Ötzi wore a grass coat and a fur cap, demonstrating that he knew a lot about staying warm. His backpack has items such as a copper axe, arrows, and a knife fashioned of animal hide. These objects show his knowledge of coping in such a harsh environment. Unfortunately, His story turned tragic when an arrowhead stuck to his shoulder was found. Examining his physique shows that he has health conditions, such as joint pain and bugs in his stomach. With his preserved tattoos, he seemed like a well-traveled traveler who belonged to a close-knit community. Ötzi is now housed in a museum in Bolzano, Italy, and visitors, including researchers, continue to be fascinated by him. Just like frozen humans, microorganisms have been in existence from the beginning of the world. A giant virus called Malavirus sibericum was identified a few years ago, but what is its present state? The giant Mali virus. In 2015, a daring team of scientists embarked on a game-changing mission to cold Siberia in Russia. This area is noted for its intense cold and boasts some of the oldest, best persevered frozen ground known permafrost. Permafrost is a layer that remains frozen for at least 2 years on or below the Earth's surface. These scientists were mostly concerned with understanding how the IVW sheet operates and its effect on the climate. They discovered something surprising while excavating deep and gathering samples from the Salana River region. When examining the sample, it turned out to be a virus. It was a new type of enormous virus, similar to Pandora viruses and pythoviruses, which they had previously discovered. The Mali virus is a member of the family of giant viruses because it is significantly larger than many other viruses, up to 10 times larger, and has complex genetic material. Repaired being frozen for years, it remained alive and infectious. Although the virus is one of 4 large centuries-old viruses found dormant in samples of usually frozen soil since 2003, it does not appear to be infectious to humans. However, its discovery has raised concerns that melting polar regions will unleash other, more harmful microbes. Furthermore, the effects of climate change may not be the only factor that awakens these viruses. It got scientists thinking as the Earth warms, the permafrost melts, potentially unleashing old viruses and germs into the atmosphere. Even burial sites are not spared from getting buried in frozen ice. Some time ago, the burial site of the Inca maiden was discovered. Finding this could help us in knowing how the ancients disposed of loved ones. But who is the Inca maiden? The burial site of Inca maiden. The discovery of the Inca maiden Juanita in 1995 in Peru's Andes Mountains was incredible. Her mummy was discovered by 3 mountain explorers on Mount Amparo by accident. Her body was well maintained. Her skin, hair, and clothing remained intact, exactly as they had when she was alive. She was dressed in cool Inca clothing and surrounded by presents such as ceramics, textiles, and tools, all of which were set up as offerings to the gods. Juanita was most likely a young girl between the ages of 12 and 15 who was chosen for a color rite in which sacred maidens were presented to the gods during elaborate mountain ceremonies. Her voyage to Mount Amparo would have been difficult, but worthwhile. Juanita is currently kept cool in a separate area at the Museo Santuario Sandinos in Arequipa, Peru. It's natural for burial sites to get buried over time, but what do you make out of a frozen lake buried deep inside meters of ice? Let's take a close look at this frozen lake. Lake Vostok, frozen under 4,000 meters of ice. Lake Vostok's narrative began in the 1950s, when Soviet scientists conducted some cool ice drilling in Antarctica. They discovered something spectacular. A very flawless ice layer hinted at a massive lake lurking beneath. The lake, which had been untouchable for millions of years, was frozen under 4,000 meters of ice. That's like a giant ice sandwich. Because it's so heavy down there, the water stays quite cold. It isn't frozen solid. Geothermal heat from the Earth's interior protects it from freezing into a large ice cube. In 2012, Russian scientists shocked it by digging into Lake Vostok and collecting water samples from its depths to discover microbial life. On January 10, 2013, the first core of freshly frozen lake ice was retrieved at a depth of 3,406 meters and 11,175 feet. However, as soon as the ice was broken, water from the underlying lake flowed up the well, mixing with the freon and kerosene used to keep the borehole from freezing. In January 2015, a new borehole was sunk, and a supposedly clean water sample was collected. The Russian team intends to eventually lower a probe into the lake to collect water samples and dirt from its bottom. It is speculated that strange types of life could be found in the lake's liquid layer, a fossil water reservoir. Even if it's little in there, the discovery of life in such a harsh environment is mind-blowing. It forces scientists to consider life's constraints not only on Earth, but also on other planets and moons in our solar system. Meteorites are believed to be space invaders on Earth, and they are believed to have a message they carry to our planet. Throughout history, there has been information on the space object and its tendency to reach the Earth. Now, an old meteorite was found on an old continent on the Earth. How did it land? Allen Hills Meteorite. The Allen Hills Meteorite, discovered in Antarctica, depicts our solar system's past. These strong rocks have endured the worst circumstances on Earth, but also contain secrets that help scientists understand how things evolved in space. The Allen Hills meteorite story began in December 1984, when a crew in Antarctica, as part of the U.S. Antarctic Search for Meteorites program, discovered one. This initial finding paved the way for numerous others, transforming Allen Hills into a meteorite gold mine. These space pebbles are primarily from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. What's astonishing is that they are all unique, like pieces of a cosmic puzzle. On August 6, 1996, a team of researchers led by NASA scientists, including main author David S. McKay, announced that the meteorite may contain traces of life from Mars. Under a scanning electron microscope, features were apparent that some scientists identified as remains of bacteria-like life forms. The structures discovered on ALH8 4001 had a diameter of 2,100 nanometers, making them similar to theoretical nanobacteria, but smaller than any cellular life known at the time of discovery. If the formations had been fossilized life forms, as claimed by the so-called biogenic theory of their genesis, they would have provided the first convincing evidence of the existence of extraterrestrial life, excluding the possibility of terrestrial contamination. The story of the cave bear, also known as Ursus spelaeus, is prehistoric. This species thrived till it became extinct approximately 24,000 years ago. It's usually believed that they spend more time in caverns than brown bears, and they are primarily herbivorous. How did the bear get frozen? 3,500-year-old frozen cave bear. Scientists discovered a 3,500-year-old cave bear frozen in the Russian Arctic. In 2020, Russian scientists discovered the jaw-dropping bones of a cave bear, Ursus spelaeus, in the Liakovsky Islands. The bear's body was frozen in the ice sheet, with its fur, teeth, and insides seeming as if it were still alive. Cave bears lived between 2.6 million and 11,700 years ago during the Ice Age. These massive plant-eating animals were related to today's brown bears, and were adept at surviving in extremely low temperatures. They were hanging out in caverns, which reminded them of their warm homes. The ice kept this cave bear fully preserved. The extremely icy Arctic temperatures prevented it from breaking down rapidly, preserving its flesh, fur, and bones in excellent condition. Scientists initially recognized the animal cave bear that lived during the last ice age, most likely between 22,000 and 39,500 years ago. However, after doing radiocarbon dating and genetic research, they have determined that the animal is a brown bear aged 3,460 years. The autopsy revealed that the female bear was approximately 2 to 3 years old when it died. It stood 5.1 feet tall and weighed approximately 172 pounds. The cause of death isn't known, but evidence of spinal column injuries was found. Recently, wool clothing that was linked to medieval times has been found. It's believed to have been worn by Vikings on their voyage and journeys, and it could reveal a lot about them. Where was this cloth found and what pattern does it have? The wool tunic of Lendbreen. Archaeologists discovered Lendbreen's tunic in 2011 in Norway's cold Jotunheimen region. This spotless tunic and other wonderful items had been sitting in the ice and snow for ages, safe from becoming old and worn out. Vikings ruled the seas and explored Europe from the late 8th to early 11th centuries. They were famed for inventing amazing things and wearing rugged garments, which influenced medieval history. This superbly preserved treasure teaches us a lot about how Vikings dressed, displaying their remarkable skills at producing clothing with intricate patterns. The wool tunic has this diamond will pattern, which demonstrates that the Vikings were professionals at producing textiles. A radiocarbon date indicated that it was around 1700 years old. The Iron Age tunic from Lenbreen is an extremely rare find. Only a few identical garment pieces have been discovered in the Germanic regions north of the Roman Empire. The closest analogy comes from the Thorsberg bog in Nordschleswig. A rare fish species existed in the water while dinosaurs roamed the land during the Jurassic period. These species were long and eel-like, and as they evolved, they became more fish-like. They've gone extinct now, but what is the species of this fish? The Ichthyosaur fossil. In 2016, researchers discovered the fossilized remains of an ichthyosaur, a fascinating ancient sea creature, in the icy depths of Antarctica, causing a stir in the scientific community. The preserved skeleton of an adult ichthyosaur and the petrified remains of an embryo inside the mother's body were what made this discovery so astounding, an ancient pregnancy preserved in stone. This remarkable photograph has provided invaluable insights into these ancient aquatic animals. Ichthyosaurs resemble modern-day dolphins. They were a fascinating group of aquatic reptiles that thrived during the Mesozoic era. The preserved mother and embryo, dating back millions of years, provide a rare look into the reproductive complexities of these beautiful beasts. This discovery implies that ichthyosaurs produced live young rather than eggs. This adaptation, like that of many other reptiles, was a game-changer in the ancient seas, ensuring the survival of fully grown young rather than vulnerable eggs prone to predators. Did you know you can identify Mercury in an environment that accommodates you? Mercury is silvery white, slowly tarnishes the air, and can freeze into a soft solid like tin or lead. Recently, scientists have discovered another hidden issue buried in the icy, frozen north, which is a vast, natural store of mercury. How did the mercury start melting in the ice? Mercury in thawing ice. A massive amount of toxic mercury is concealed deep in the thawing permafrost of the Arctic. This alarming discovery is making environmentalists and scholars very nervous about the fragile balance of the Arctic ecosystem. To demonstrate how terrible this is, scientists discovered 56 million liters and 15 million gallons of mercury imprisoned in the freezing grasp of the northern ice sheet. This alarming discovery makes this area the world's largest mercury deposit, far beyond that found in soils outside the permafrost zone. The ramifications of this concealed mercury are serious and bleak. As global temperatures rise and time melts, there is a high possibility of harmful material being released into the ecosystem. Once released, mercury can travel in different ways, posing a significant hazard to ecosystems and human health. One main concern is that mercury may get into the water supply because it tends to accumulate in aquatic organisms. It has the potential to spread up the food chain, posing a threat to marine and land creatures. This buildup of mercury in fish and wildlife can pose major health concerns to those who consume tainted food. When it's released into the air, it can travel considerable distances, contaminating areas far from its source. Volcanic activities have been part of human history, cutting across different cultures, languages, and styles. Volcanoes are signs that such locations are closer to the Earth's crust, and that they are prone to risk of eruptions. But what volcanic mount was found frozen in ice? The volcanic Mount Erebus. Mount Erebus, which rises proudly from the snowy landscape of Antarctica's Ross Island, is a spectacular example of our planet's incredible geology. This volcano, named after the ship HMS Erebus, from Captain James Clark Ross's expedition in 1841, is not only the world's southernmost active volcano, but also a fascinating area of scientific investigation. Mount Erebus stands 3,794 meters above sea level and dominates Ross Island's sea skyline. Its tremendous presence is proved by a continual plume of volcanic gas coming from its summit. What distinguishes the mount is its constantly active lava lake tucked within its crater. The mount is well known for its frequent volcanic activity, which is shared by only a few other volcanoes throughout the world. Regular eruptions occur, with gas, ash, and on some occasions, lava flows. The enduring lava lake in its crater is a golden opportunity for scientists to study how an active volcano operates closely. Another thing about it is the discovery of tiny life forms in its tough environment. These special microorganisms thrive in the volcano's gases and extreme cold, giving us insight into the possibility of life existing on other celestial bodies with similar conditions like Jupiter's moon. Dinosaurs are a strange species of two-legged animals that existed in the Jurassic era. Having lived for millions of years, it's expected that they would be found in the ice. And they were. But where exactly was the dinosaur fossil found? Dinosaur fossils. Antarctica, once part of the supercontinent Gondwana, hides a captivating secret beneath its icy surface, which is the remains of dinosaurs that once lived in this frozen land. Despite the harsh conditions today, this recent discovery of dinosaur fossils unfolds an exciting chapter in Earth's history. The first dinosaur remnant in Antarctica was found in 1986. Since then, many more have been unearthed. These fossils gave important ancient history, allowing scientists to piece together how life thrived in Antarctica during the dinosaur era. This spans approximately 180,000 years. Antarctica was not frozen throughout the Mesozoic era. It featured a mild climate, rich vegetation, and a diverse range of land and water species. It was home to a variety of dinosaurs, including plant eaters and meat eaters. The dinosaur fossils discovered in Antarctica include sauropods, theropods, and ornithopods, providing information about their size, morphology, and behavior. Skulls are particular to both human beings and animals of all sizes and shapes. Whatever skull is found on expeditions talks more about who and what it belongs to. An elongated skull was found in Antarctica. But did it belong to human beings or animals? Elongated skulls in Antarctica. In 1928, Julio Taló, a courageous explorer attracted by Antarctica's mysteries, conducted an expedition to the frozen continent. His team endured tough circumstances and great cold to delve deep into the Antarctic wilderness in quest of geological and archaeological clues. During their excursion, Taló's team discovered elongated skulls hiding beneath the ice and snow. Unlike the ordinary human head, these skulls possessed a distinct shape with elongated and pointed characteristics, which points to ancient civilizations such as Peru's Paracas culture and the Egyptians. These findings stunned scientists and scholars. It upended long-held views about the continent's past, raising the possibility of an unknown old civilization that once lived in Antarctica. The skulls lead to intensive scientific research and debate, raising significant concerns about the chilly land's remote past. Since 2014, a strange rumor has circulated claiming that the cone-shaped skulls found in Peru's Paracas area are from aliens. The DNA tests also proved that they were not human. However, the legitimacy of these examinations is debatable, and experts doubt the competence of the individuals involved. The lengthy skulls are most likely the result of humans purposely modifying their head shapes, which is a common practice in many civilizations. A mummy is a common word used for different occasions, but in this case, it's a deceased person or other living entity who has been dried and preserved, either purposefully or unintentionally. However, the discovery of this frozen mummy in the icy region was rare. What message does it hold? Frozen mummies. They were discovered in the icy clutches of Mexico's Pico de Orizaba, at the high-stop slopes of North America's tallest volcano. These startling findings sent shockwaves across the climbing community and local authorities. According to the Center of Strategic and International Studies, the gripping scene unfolded when a climber slid and was confronted with such stunning sights. A mummified head and arm sticking out from the snow, the the climbers. Disbelief leads to alarm, causing them to notify authorities right away. This information sparked interest throughout the region. The authorities then traveled to another distant location to investigate, only to unearth 2 additional mummies frozen in the ice grip of Pico de Orizaba. A surprise twist came among the researchers when an 81-year-old man called Luis Espinosa, who was part of a terrible expedition on these same slopes in 1959, came out with a surprising disclosure. Luis claimed to have recognized one of the mummies based on their distinguishing attire and jewelry rather than their faces. A man's clothes and a ring with initials were the keys to unlocking this frightening sight. Luis's memories have given a critical context for the authorities, showing that the bones belong to people who perished during an ill-fated mission over 6 decades ago. It's a real-life mystery with a wow factor, revealing the secrets hidden in the icy heights of Pico de Orizaba. Human history has witnessed the brave actions and plans of men in attempting a seemingly impossible feat. Human beings are wired with curiosity and often act it out, making them lose their lives and get frozen in cold regions. Such was the story of Wilson Maurice. How was he frozen? Maurice Wilson's frozen legacy. Maurice Wilson's story is both courageous and tragic. It happens along the majestic backdrop of Mount Everest's highest peak. In 1934, a daring British aviator embarked on a solo attempt to reach Everest's summit. However, his journey ended in an early death, leaving his frozen body as a stark reminder of the mountain's harsh nature. Wilson, in 1898, grew up with risky goals. From teaching himself to fly, he became obsessed with Everest and decided on a daring plan to conquer the world's tallest mountain. Despite his weak flying and climbing abilities, he came up with an unusual strategy that involved crash landing a small plane near Everest Base Camp. Wilson sought to get to the top alone, a feat that experienced climbers haven't been able to reach yet. The community in charge of the mountain and British authorities were skeptical about his mission. They saw it as an irresponsible and easy-to-fail plan. Regardless, Wilson decided to forget ahead of his plans. Wilson's plane crashed near a mountain in April 1934. He spent months at high altitudes acclimating and rising. His lack of knowledge and inadequate equipment were evident in the scenario. Though determined, he passed on alone on May 30th, 1934. A British team led by Eric Shooting discovered his frozen body high on the Everest slopes. How death can be traced to intense cold and hazardous conditions. A hole in the ground, caused by some collapse of the ground's surface, was discovered frozen under ice in Siberia. It's called a sinkhole. How come the sinkhole got frosty? Frozen sinkholes in Siberia. The story of Siberia's second-most frozen sinkholes is an inspiring one of bravery in the face of nature's severe hurdles. Siberia, known for its vast icy landscapes, is attracting international attention to a spectacular natural location called frozen sinkholes. It is also known as methane craters. These strange breaches in the frozen water reflect intricate geological processes as well as the region's response to climate change. These frozen sinkholes emerge when methane gas stored beneath Siberian ice is released. As global temperatures rise, permafrost thaws, shaking the formerly frozen Earth. This allows the potent greenhouse gas to escape from subsurface reserves. When the gas builds up to a certain point, it can cause explosions resulting in these special sinkholes. Their dynamic features constantly change. Some have mounds of material surrounding them, while others have a combination of ice, soil, and debris. These characteristics provide scientists with important information on the region's geological history and interplay of ice sheet, ice, and gas. The leakage of gas from these holes has raised concerns about its influence on global climate change. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas that warms the globe more quickly than carbon dioxide over shorter periods. As sinkholes become increasingly common in Siberia, more gas is being released into the atmosphere, causing climate change. The built and designed expedition ships differ from the ones used for the transportation of people, animals, and objects. One of these ships was discovered completely frozen in ice, even with people on board. What expedition ship was that? Franklin. Expedition ships. It's a remarkable event with an important result for our planet's future. Franklin Expedition ships hardware made software, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror were involved in one of the most memorable polar exploration tragedies. Sir John Franklin was a British Royal Navy commander who led a voyage in 1845 to discover the elusive Northwest Passage, a legendary sea path over the Arctic that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Erebus and Terror were carefully designed to withstand harsh Arctic conditions with steam engines, a large library, scientific tools, and enough supplies. Despite these preparations, unexpected obstacles developed throughout the years. The ships became stranded in ice off King William Island, unable to break free as time passed. Unfortunately, the whole crew died in severe conditions. The specific reason for their death is unknown, with suggestions ranging from lead poisoning to severe cold exposure. For years, the fate of the Franklin adventure remained a mystery. However, through voyages and archaeological work, the story gradually emerged. Erebus was seen in 2016 as extraordinarily well preserved on the Arctic seafloor. It shows critical insights into the expedition's closing days. It's an unforgettable journey through history and the cold depths of the Arctic. What are your thoughts on these fascinating discoveries? Share them in the comments section, and while at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more mind-blowing findings.